stay home 4 days and just practice everything we can.
You pay yourself.
God bless you. Or get 2 people to get.
Alrighty, let's get started. Successful pricing techniques. Let me ask you, a few of you a question. Why did you come here today? What are you expecting to learn and why?
Pricing techniques.
Something new?
Something new.
Something new, okay. What else?
Pricing
Something
techniques.
that makes sense to the seller, so they'll get it.
Something that makes sense to the seller so that they get it, right? And what is it that we want them to get?
The house isn't
Proper
worth what they
pricing.
The
think.
proper pricing. Why is that important to you?
It sells.
Because the property sells. Now work with me a little bit on this and kind of play along with me. Why is that important to you? Seriously.
Because we don't make money.
Don't wanna waste our
Because we
time.
don't make
Time
money,
wasted
don't
for
wanna
them.
waste our time,
Yeah.
time wasted for them.
We
Right.
lose money if we do all this work and have no closing.
Yes, we lose money if we do all this work and have no closing, right?
Definitely.
Worse than having no listings at all, there is something worse than that, believe it or not.
Ones that don't sell.
Overpriced.
You have it. Having listings that don't sell. And there's only one reason why a listing doesn't sell, and one reason only, and what is it?
Too high.
It's priced too
Price.
high. Some people like to argue that with me, or they like to try to argue that with me, and I always smile. I remember sellers, or even real estate agents mostly will justify the price of a property sometimes more often than a seller would. And they'll say, well, you know, this listing of mine, John, would have sold, it's just that it's not, you know, it's on a busy road. And I always say, what?
Reduce your price.
No, I say, move it.
Oh,
Move the house. It's on a busy road, move the house. Wow, so we can't move the house. I said, well then, lower the price. Well, John, you know, that listing that I have really would have sold faster if it were just wasn't in such disrepair, if they would just fix the house up. So then I say, what?
Fix it.
Fix it. Well, they can't fix it. Then I say, well, you fix it. Oh, I'm not gonna fix it. Then lower the what?
Price.
Price.
And I say the word lower, but what I really would like you to use, and I'm trying to correct the words that I use on a daily basis as well, is instead of using the word lower,
Adjust.
adjust. I wanna use the word adjust. Be very careful about the words that you use. You know, I wanna come over and talk about the adjustment of your property. Both in the marketing and in the pricing. I always like to throw that in when I'm talking to a seller directly. I always like to mention to them that, you know what, there are 2 things that sell a home and they both begin with the letter P. Do you guys know what they are?
Presentation.
Yeah, kind of similar.
Price.
Price and price the seller controls, and there's one thing that I control, and that's promotion. So it's price and promotion. There are only 2 things that can get a home sold: price and promotion. I'm certainly going to do everything that I can to promote the sale of your property. It's your job to work with me on the pricing so that we can come to a successful close on your property. Okay? So, thank you for those, that feedback, because I know how important it is. I know that the only reason that a listing doesn't sell is because of price. Right now, we have sellers that are chasing the market down. You know what I mean by that?
You're always a little bit above the market.
They're always a little
too
bit
late.
above the market, a little bit too late. Very successful real estate broker in New York was interviewed recently by the Wall Street Journal. And her method of getting property sold in this market was very simple. She says, I put together an accurate market analysis and I recommend they price their home 5% below what my figure is that I come up with for value. And that is the only way to be sure that the property will actually sell. Because if you price it competitively, there's a real good chance it still won't sell, because if prices continue to drop and you're priced competitively, well, someone who took a listing, who takes the listing next month is priced better than yours, and then that sells before yours does. So how do you beat the market? Well, you beat the market by becoming the most competitive home on the market. The way you become competitive is you have a property that's priced correctly. Priced to sell. Follow me? It's a whole different mentality. In fact, it's completely opposite of what some of you are used to if you've been in the business for less than 5 years. And that is, you know, ask the seller, what do you want to sell it for? Well, I think we'd like to try 400,000. no problem. List it for 400,000 and wait for someone to buy it for 425, right? If you are lucky enough to have that listing opportunity. Okay, so let's talk about successful pricing techniques. Number 5, the top 5 countdown questions of the day. Number 5, the number one reason you lose listings is A, timing, B, your marketing presentation, or C, price.
Right.
In fact, the best way to get properties sold and to sell more homes is to lose fewer. You've heard me say that before, right? The number one reason you lose listings is price. Now, number 4, you always have to show them a CMA to get it priced right. True or false? That is false. As a matter of fact, I would even recommend that you use the comparative market analysis as an objection handling tool. And we're going to talk about that shortly, a little bit later on today as well. We're going to talk about how to use the CMA as an objection handling tool. Here's a huge problem. Now feel this, okay? Agents are using...
Sick of this.
Hopefully they want a price adjustment, Roberta.
Yeah.
Now, some agents, and don't get mad if this is you, okay? I'm gonna call you out for a minute here. Some agents, their listing presentation is what gets printed out of Toolkit CMA. That is their listing presentation. They put a clear plastic cover on the front, a hard backing on the back, they bind it on the edges, and they walk in with a picture of the house, of the property on the front, and they go, "Ooh, here's my presentation." And it's the CMA. Folks, that packet is a piece of junk. It is not marketing you or your company in any way whatsoever. Your CMA is not your listing presentation. I've said this in a previous class, and I'll say it again. Right on the other side of this wall here, or in all of your offices, you have what we call our flex sheets. And they're listing presentation sheets that you use on your listing presentations. And they have that blue border on the side and on the top. You know which ones I'm talking about, of course, right? And what many agents do is they take and they put one of these packets together for every listing appointment that they go on. And that's the kiss of death, because now I feel like you've created a leave behind piece of material, and anytime you leave anything behind, you've also left this behind. You've left them behind to think it over, and when you leave somebody behind to think it over, and you give them an opportunity to think it over, you've given them an opportunity not to list with you, to not make a decision. When somebody is faced with an opportunity to not make a decision, that's exactly what they'll do. They won't make a decision. And so the last thing you ever want to do is have a leave behind. What you want to do is you want to take one page of each of those flex sheets, buy a really nice, handsome, good quality 3-ring binder with gold corners on it, or brass corners, make it look really sharp, take clear plastic sheet protectors and put one of those pages in each clear plastic sheet protector, customize it on each listing by having information in there in regard to the property, and then use that as your listing presentation book. And don't leave anything behind. The only thing I would ever leave behind is the market analysis and my marketing plan if I got the listing. And I'm actually going to have a workshop, and it's an entire workshop dedicated to one objection and one objection only. That is, we want to think it over. So we're going to have a whole workshop based on I want to think it over. Because what is happening is that sellers will say to you, we want to think it over. And agents say, oh, well, no problem, right? They're taking dialogue that we've learned in the first class. They're using no problem. And they're using it in the wrong places. And they're saying, no problem, here's all my stuff. Look it over. I have to laugh when I hear that, because I left some of my things behind. They're going to look it over. It's laughable. I mean, they're not going to look it over, unfortunately. They're not going to read it. You've given your presentation, and there's probably a real objection they're not hitting you with, but it's more comfortable for them to say, I'm going to think it over, than to tell you your commission's too high, right? Because on the guts gauge for the seller of the property, right, for the seller, it's easier for them to say that I want to think it over. That's like a 1 on the guts gauge. than it is
Instead
to
of
say,
saying,
your
I don't
commission.
like you, I
Yeah.
don't like your price, I don't like you.
I don't like you, I don't like your pricing, oh, that's a 5 on the guts gauge. Most sellers don't have the guts to do that, so they'll just smile and say, well, that's nice, we'll think it over. You can leave that here if you want, you know, we'll take a look at it and, you know, have a nice day, it was really great to meet you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, oh my gosh. Whenever that's the kiss of death, anytime I've ever lost a sale in my entire life that I've, you know, the career that I've been in sales, even prior to getting into real estate sales, anytime anybody ever said to me, thank you for your time, I knew that I lost the sale. I knew it was gone. Okay? Anytime anybody ever said that, thank you for your time, I'm like, oh, this is not good. Diane, thanks for picking up on that one. That's a hot button.
John, what do you say if they ask you to leave the thing behind? No, it's mine. You have it?
Charge
Yeah.
$50.
Let's role play. That's which you guys know I always like to do, and you always like to try to get me to do that. Diane, for doing that, you get a certificate for bringing that up today. All right. So,
Say it for me again.
Tina brought up the objection. You know, well, what was it again? You want to leave?
We don't wanna leave, I don't wanna leave this stuff behind and they want me to leave it behind.
Right, so I'm ending the presentation, and part of the reason why they want you to leave something behind is we might have skipped a step in our presentation process. We're probably not, we haven't followed through in being in control of the whole process. So the way that I would close at the end of a presentation, I close in such a natural way if you just follow the process, the 6 or 7 step process that I shared with you on how top producers list properties and you know, perform on the listing presentation. It's not natural to leave something behind if you stay on track. But if they do say, you know what, let's say you're the seller and you say to me, John, yeah, everything looks good, why don't you just leave this stuff here and we'll think it over, right? Or if they say, can you leave this stuff behind? And I would say, sure, as a matter of fact, I'll leave anything you want. All we need to simply do now is approve this form so that I can get the sign in the yard in a few days. What other things would you need copies of?
I'd like to read through all the literature you gave me about where the buyers are coming from and
Sure.
the market trends, I just haven't looked at it.
Yeah, well, actually, because I gave the presentation to them, and I sat down, I already went through that with them. So I'm just trying to role play realistically and say that, you know what, well, actually, what was it, I would say to you, what was it about those pages that you had a concern about? Let's go to it right now. And I'd go to the page right then and there. But if you, I'm picking on you a little bit, but
No, I understand what you're doing.
I'm glad this is very healthy, what we're doing is very good.
I understand what you're doing.
But if you go through that, they probably won't come up with that as an objection. What are some other, be a little tougher on me, what are some other things that they might say?
They want to show it to their husband who wasn't there that night.
I would have left before I gave the
Right.
presentation,
I wanna do it when they're all there.
right, I would have pre-qualified them. So, see, I'm handling the objections before they come up by saying, on the pre-qualifying, when I call after I get the appointment, I'm saying, you know what, will all the decision makers be there? And if they say no, then I reschedule. If they say yes and I get there and one of the decision makers out there and say, oh, that's no problem, let's reschedule. I don't mind, I had some other things I needed to do today anyway. Yes, Bill?
What we talked about when we were working on that presentation, and you touched on it briefly, is when you're putting it together and you've got that nice expensive binder and you've got everything in individual clear things, they don't expect to ask that and take it back, because it looks like it's your materials.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so that eliminates some of that right then and there, on how you have it together.
But if you go in with that binding machine, that docu-bind machine that we have, right? I should call it a donkey bind machine, right? Because you look like a donkey going in with, I'm sorry if you're getting offended by me saying this, but it's not a good move, gang. Because you're creating a leave behind piece of material that's you're forcing them to not make a decision.
You don't like that binding at all, that little zip.
It's not the binding, it's just the fact that it looks like it's more of like what Bill said, it's more like a giveaway. And
It's
Wasn't that
throw
its
them out
intention
then.
originally to be left behind and talk about the company and
Yeah,
the
we did
services
before.
offered?
Yes.
Are we
Yeah,
getting
used
away
to.
from that? Are you going another
No,
direction?
here's the problem.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, Tina. Here's what happened. The people, agents wanted stuff to leave behind, right? We're in a market where you could do whatever you want and be successful. You could leave behind, you could give the listing presentation, you could not give a presentation, you could go in with a pad of paper. You could go in with shorts and sandals on
Oh, and they
and
do.
get the listing. I mean, so that's where we're coming from. Where are we going now? We have to shop, our car has to be clean, we have to be dressed professionally, we have to wear suits, we have to go in prepared, we have to go in being able to, ready, willing, and able to handle any and all their objections. We have to develop the skills to handle pricing with them. We need to have the skill and the ability to explain to them why our marketing plan is better than our competitors. And so we need to go in there now, and we have to do all those things. We're not getting away from them, but we have to do them in a more professional manner. I'm all for leaving what's called a pre-listing packet, where you send them something in advance about you and your company before you get there. The biggest problem that I've run into with that is that people really don't read it before you get there. I mean, look at your life when you get home. Do you have time to read things or watch a video, because somebody sent it ahead of time? No, you don't. So what I like to do is, I would prefer in this market to review it with them. So I would take all those pages and review it with them and use the FBOT system. You all know what that is?
Fact, opposite, benefit, tie down.
You got it, right.
Say it again?
FBOT, so you take each one of those pages that you have, those flex sheets that you're going to use for your listing presentation, and you mention the fact. The fact is, we have a relocation department. You mentioned the benefit, FBOT, of having relocation. We attract buyers from all over the world to our company because of our size and what we do and how we do it. The opposite is, that's the O in the FBOT, is that if you list with a local company that's just a smaller company, they don't have access to all these buyers from all around the world as we do. And the tie down, that's the close on each page there, each topic you talk about, is that, doesn't it make sense to list with a company that's affiliated with a major relocation company? And you do one of these, right? and you go to the next page. We have home warranty, and this is how we do it. The benefit of having, the feature is we have a home warranty. The benefit of having the home warranty is the buyer knows that their budget is protected after they buy their home. If you list with an agent who doesn't tell you that they have a home warranty, or doesn't truly encourage you to invest in a home warranty for your property, regardless of the condition of your home, then that agent might not get your home sold. Doesn't it make sense to list with a company that is using all the marketing materials they possibly can in this market to get your home sold, especially since the amount of months of inventory in Hampden County is now up to 13.5 months of inventory in Hampden County. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I don't want to leave one stone unturned, and I would highly recommend that you list with an agent that's similar to what I'm doing. Would you agree?
Is
Right?
that true?
Yes.
Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
Look at
13
Trend
and a half
Graphics,
months?
go to Hampden County,
Wow.
Trend Graphics, it goes like this, and then it goes, woo, 13.5 months of inventory. Now you bring that, now what you do is you bring that with you as part of your listing presentation. You put that in the clear plastic sheet. You tell them about the market before you get to pricing. Tell them about the market before you get to pricing. These are all extremely powerful tools that will knock the socks off your competition and help you get the properties sold. So, you always have to show them a CMA to get it priced right? No, that is not correct, and I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit as to what you can do with your CMA. Now, number 3, what should you do when their price is higher than actual market value? That's rare, isn't it? A, hit them with the market value and hope they don't notice the difference. Ooh. B, hit them with the market value and then try to talk them down. How many of you know of agents in your market area that are taking overpriced listings, knowing for a fact that they're going to work to get that seller to come down after they get the listing? I call that buying the listing. And by the way, when you're on a listing appointment, you have to warn your sellers about these agents who will do this to them.
I'm one.
Yeah. And if you,
Suzanne White does that.
you know,
all the
and so
time,
what
yeah.
you need to do is, I'm
Gets
gonna
the
share with
result,
you
gets
a
all the
tool
rest.
and a technique, and a tool, I should say, that you can use, that will help eliminate any and all that, altogether. Now, number 2, which is the most important to most sellers? Price, commission, or net at closing? What was number 3?
What was the answer?
Oh.
Close for listing
Number 3
subject
is,
to price.
C, close for listing, subject to agreeing on price. What should you do when their price is higher than actual market value? You close for the listing, subject to agreeing on price, and I'm gonna give you the dialogue for that and share with you how to do that. Which is the most important to most sellers? Price, commission, or net at closing?
Net at closing.
That's correct. They wanna know what they're getting in their pocket. How
Couldn't
many of
do
you
that,
attended
though?
the, what's that?
How can you give them a net when you don't know what the house is gonna sell for?
Well, what you do is you give them a range, you know, there's an old Latin phrase, you know, called annus protectus, I don't know if you ever heard that before. And what you do is you give them a range, so your property should sell anywhere from $380,000 to $400,000. That's the range it should sell within, and so on my net sheet, I would prefer you have 2 columns. This is what the fee for service would be if it's sold for $380,000. This is what the fee for service would be if it's sold for $400,000. And by the time you're at the bottom, you're going to net either negative $10,000 or break even. Can you live with these numbers? You know, or they might be a positive number, or they might both be negative numbers at the end of the net. And then you ask them, you know, can you live with these numbers? A net sheet is extremely important. How many of you attended the short sale seminar this week? Right? Didn't Jody talk about using a net sheet, and she had some examples of net sheets and all that? So really, really important. Yes, Bill?
The net sheet in the toolkit does only give the one range.
It does.
Is there
yeah.
some place where we can get the template for it, or do we have to create our own?
You can create your own in an Excel spreadsheet, or, you know, you could even do it by hand. You know, what if you took the CMA, the CMA program we have with one column, and you just handwrite or put the other column in there as well, you know, and do it right there with them. You may not be able to put that column in.
It's in the
Follow me on
CMA
this,
one,
right? CMA Pro gives you one column, and it only allows you to put one price in there. Let's say the price is $380, but you know when you get to the house, it's a dump. So you're gonna think to yourself, well, it's gonna sell between $360 to $380. So you write in $360 with your calculator, and you figure out what the net would be if it were $360 or between $380. You get there and the house is immaculate. In fact, they have an addition that they didn't tell you about when you get there, and you said $380, well, now you can say, well, here's what I think it would actually sell based on my adjustment of being here. It should sell for $400, and this is what your net would be if it sold for $400. So
Could you
You
ask
could still use
Toolkit to
that.
do it 2 or 3 different ways and just print them out and use them as comparisons?
what's that?
You could ask Toolkit to print it out, different
Yeah,
ways.
you could, absolutely. Yes, you could change the price and toolkit
And they're all
have it
printed the
there.
same.
Yeah, that's a good idea,
Just
yes.
FYI, H3 does a double column.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
And what I'll usually do with the CMA is I'll do it first on H3 and then on Toolkit.
Mhm.
And I'll use
A
parts
mixture
from
of both?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
very
neat.
effective in that.
Interesting, that's a good idea, thank you for
So
sharing.
tell me how many listings I got.
Well, you have to go on more appointments, that's all. More people need to get to know you. If they do, they'll list with you. Yes.
Something's really bothering me about doing prices these days, and like you're using these neat little figures, 380 to 400. My CMAs are wild amounts of difference, and I have even come down in the higher price ranges, $300,000-$400,000 before they sold. So it's like, how do you know it all? I mean, it's like, if it's not been done before in that range, in this town, but you have a spectacular property, I mean,
Right.
it's just very, very hard
Yeah, very hard
to
to
price.
price it all.
Yeah.
Here's what I highly recommend, and this worked extremely well, and it's a very successful approach. And I've used this personally, so I know that it works, okay? But I need you to have an open mind when you receive this information. You all promise me you're gonna have an open mind for a few minutes? And then after that, you can go back to having a closed mind after a few minutes, okay? Here's what I would do whenever I had a property that Roberta is describing where it's not a 6-room, 3-bedroom ranch with a 1-car garage, and I do my CMA in the last 3 months, for properties sold within a price range, within a half-mile radius, you know what I'm talking about. A property that you can find plenty of comps for, and you know what the price is, right? Or a condo in a condo development, and you know that what they all sold for. That's not what Roberta's talking about. Roberta's talking about that property that stands out amongst the crowd, and there aren't many properties like it. What if you had a contemporary, or a log cabin, or something odd, or different, or out of the norm, and you just can't find as many comps within the last 3 months? So, what I do is, I would say to the seller, listen, here's the scoop. I have a dilemma. The dilemma is this. I received all the information, probably looked at your property, it's beautiful. I went back to my office, I looked way back as far as I could to try to find comparables to match your property. And my dilemma is this. I'm not sure whether I should give you the price that you want to hear, only to have given you the wrong price and let you down later on because I wasn't strong enough to tell you what you need to hear. And then me not end up selling the listing and you're frustrated because your home is on the market too long because we accidentally overpriced the property because we lacked the necessary information to price it correctly. Or I tell you what you need to do next. So let me ask you a question. Do you want me to lie to you or do you want me to level with you? What are they gonna say?
Level.
Well, level. Here's what you need to do. As a professional real estate agent, most sellers would look at me and say, hey, you're a professional, you should know what the price of this property is. I am a professional, and as a professional, I'm gonna recommend that you do something that I guarantee you most agents will not. Because most agents are afraid that they're gonna look silly if they don't give you a number. But here's what a pro would do. A pro would recommend that you break down and spend the $300 to have an appraisal done on your property, a professional appraisal. You'll know what it is. Here are the benefits to you for having a professional appraisal done. And by the way, if you list with me and we sell it, I'll reimburse you the money for the appraisal. Does that sound fair?
Cool, I
All
did
right.
that.
All right, now here's the benefits to you. The benefits to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that you'll know what your net is going to be should you decide to sell your home. You'll know what you're gonna net in your pocket so that you can make future plans. Is that of value to a seller? Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I still got you, I haven't lost you, right? Okay, now, the other benefit to you is it'll eliminate appraisal problems in the future, because if we do find some sucker to come off a 91, off the turnip truck, and he rolls into town, and he sees your home and he agrees to pay more than market value for your property, and then he goes to the bank to get a loan, even if he's putting 20% down, the lender will not give him the money to buy your home. And therefore, you've wasted time on the market, and the lender will not allow the buyer to buy the property. So we'll eliminate that problem. What if we get an appraisal, or what if a buyer comes in too low for your price? It's an awesome tool that we can use to justify to the buyer why we've priced it where it is and why they should come up in their price. It can become an excellent negotiating tool. You see the benefits of this, gang? The fact is, you need to know what the value of your property is. Another fact of the matter is that there isn't a single real estate agent out there who has the ability to what a professional appraiser can do, who's going to be honest with you other than me. Now, the benefits I've already outlined for you, right? A really good negotiating tool. It'll eliminate surprises. You'll know what you'll net in your pocket. It will help you make a decision as to whether you should sell or not, and it's only a few $100. If you're worried about the few $100, I'll reimburse you after the sale of the property should you decide to list with me. Okay? Now, the other thing is, here's your other option. You can do that, or you can go to another real estate agent, they'll give you a price, and you could end up with the problems of not getting your property sold, not getting the most amount of money for your property, and not being able to move on with your plans because you have the wrong information. An agent may come in with a price too low, and you may leave $100,000 on the table that you could have put in your pocket only because you weren't willing to spend a few $100s. You see, that few $100 that I'm asking you to spend on a professional appraisal is an investment, it's not a cost. You know, how many of you can talk about stories where you went to one accountant and charged you $100 and you ended up owing the government more taxes because they screwed up, versus going to an accountant who charges you $700, who was able to give you legitimately, legally, and keep you out of trouble, thousands of dollars back in returns. Or write-offs, right? Was that $700 to $100? That $600 was an investment because you were able to get more than that amount of money back. And what I'm saying is that if you get an appraisal, you'll get more than that amount of money back. It's an investment. So Roberta, that's how I would handle that with the seller. If the seller doesn't, I mean, I've explained to you the facts, I explained to you the benefits, I explained to you the opposite, and the tie down, of course, is, you know what? So all you need to simply do is, what I'll do, this is Roberta's close, you ready? I know 2 or 3 really good appraisers. I'll call one of them, I'll have them call you, and you can set up an appointment with them. They'll probably ask for you to write them a check when they come to the house to check it out. What times are you typically available? Right?
Yep.
Close.
But they all think we're like an appraiser, they say, no.
Well, but I
don't
just,
you,
I understand, but I just dispelled that myth, didn't I?
Yeah.
You know, what you could do, and I don't know what the facts are, but you could go and find out what the facts are. In order for you to become a licensed appraiser, find out all the details of what it takes to be a licensed appraiser. And, you know, I know there's an apprenticeship program, you have to work for a certain amount of time with a licensed appraiser before you can get a license yourself. I don't know how many hours of school, and you could explain to them, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we have to go to school to get a license for 24 hours of classroom time. You know how many hours are spent on appraising property? Probably less than 1 hour. Versus an appraiser, and you go through the hundreds of hours of training and apprenticeship and testing and updating and all that. So do you see the difference between an appraiser and a real estate agent? So you need to be the educator, you need to be the trainer to the seller to help them understand. Yes, Sandy?
I have to say that can backfire on you, for 2 reasons. During this crazy time when the houses were escalating so quickly,
Yes?
we had appraisers calling us to
Yes.
say, what houses are you using? They didn't know how to do it, they didn't know what to use, they didn't know what price to put on the houses. But we had one also in the office that was listed with someone, and I don't have all the details because I wasn't involved,
Okay.
as far as what it was listed at first.
Mm-hmm.
It was listed with an agent from another company, and it didn't sell. So the homeowner went out and had an appraisal done.
Yes.
Then she called an agent from our office and
Yes.
insisted on putting it on for that price, and it was like 60,000-70,000 over what the market analysis was.
Let me address that.
Yeah.
Hold
The
on.
appraiser put the price that much higher.
Let me answer the question. Here's the problem. When you go and you get an appraisal on a property, there are 2 things. Do you know, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that in this world there are good auto mechanics and bad ones?
Yep.
Good realtors and bad ones? Good appraisers and bad ones?
Yeah.
Right? You ever looked at an appraisal, where the heck did they get these comps? What is going on here, right? Didn't make sense. So that can happen. So you're gonna handle that objection by
Probably,
referring what? A good one,
Appraisal.
all right?
They
Second
use
major
them on
factor that appraisers always ask, the first question they always ask, you know what it is?
Are
Is
you
it for
local?
refinance or is it for sale, market value?
Why do you want the appraisal? What do you want it for?
'cause it's
And
different.
you, the agent, have to know who that appraiser is, and you have to make sure that that agent, that appraiser understands this is for sale, this is why we need it, not for a refinance. Because if you call an appraiser who might not be good or experienced, and or you say it's for, I just, wanna refinance it, or there's no accountability involved whatsoever, an appraisal is an opinion, gang. It's not an exact science, it's still an opinion. And 2 different appraisers can come up with 2 different numbers, that's a fact, right? But let's go back to what Roberta was talking about. We're talking about this rare individual property that, you know what, you don't have a clue, and you've been in this business for a while. And you show your branch executive and you show me and I go, yeah, I don't have a clue. When are we gonna find a comp for this? Because it just simply doesn't exist. We need someone who has the professional experience to be able to take a property that is 1 or 2 towns out, not within this town, and be able to make the proper adjustments, both because it's in a different town, a different area, and it's sold at a different time, but it's a similar property, and have to make the adjustments for square footage, garage, bedrooms, bath, and know what the differences are in value from that town to this town to that town. You see what I'm saying?
Who's
It's a lot more
reimbursing, by
involved.
the way? Is that a 6%, is it off the top, is it out of our pocket, where's this reimbursement coming from?
Out of your pocket.
You know,
Well,
we
you-
work with,
Company won't be.
Volunteer.
yeah, I mean,
It's out of yours.
I'm just asking,
yeah,
Comes
what
out
were
of
you
our
thinking?
pocket.
If it's
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
only if it's
I
out.
know.
if you're asking me, hold on,
But
hold
the
on.
appraisal.
If you're asking me if I'll split the cost of the appraisal with you, sure, if you get 6%.
Right,
But don't get 5 and come back with reducing it from there. Is that fair?
Mhm.
How about if you get 5 1/4? We could even do that. All right, but not if you get it at 5, you're paying for it. If it's a commission above 5, I'll split it with you. How's that?
Or consider the seller's gift.
Yes, you could.
Gift to the seller.
Yeah. I mean, you might not even have to reimburse them. They might say, okay. And if they say no, say, what are you concerned about? Are you concerned about the cost of the appraisal? Well, you have to also look at this and think to yourself, how motivated are these people to sell? I mean, if they're not willing to, I mean, after you explain it exactly the way I just explained it, you either have to be real silly or and not get it as a seller or not be motivated to get your home sold. That's the bottom line. I mean, really, when you think about it, because I was very logical in my, and I handled all their objections. Yes,
I would say the market difference right now is actually causing the reverse of what I just said.
Mhm.
Because appraisers will call you now, or they'll do an appraisal and they are so tight because of this
yes.
subprime lending and people that are involved with predatory lending. They don't wanna get involved in that, and the companies have tightened up on their criteria.
Yes, they have.
They are getting tighter.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Angela.
Yes.
I've actually done that probably 4 times with the appraisal because the property was just not comparable. You couldn't comp
Okay,
it.
good.
Not one time did a seller disagree with me.
Wow.
about getting an appraisal?
Absolutely.
And they all got an
I've never
appraisal?
suggested paying for it. It was
Yeah.
completely for their benefit to make sure we came on right where we should.
Excellent.
And it's gone both ways. Appraisals have come in lower, and some have come in ridiculously higher, and then we adjust. You know,
Yes.
we come back to the local market.
But I love what you're saying, Angela, because guess what? If the price is wrong, whose fault is it not?
Right.
Ours.
It's not
Right.
Angela's
Ours,
fault,
right.
sorry for the grammar there, but, you
Right.
know, but,
Yeah,
you know what, they can't blame Angela for
For
the
unusual
pricing.
properties, not for an average
Yeah, I mean,
colonial.
if you have a spectacular view on
Something
the
with
side of a
acres,
mountain, what's it
right.
worth?
Right, with views and things like
Yeah.
that, farms and.
Right, it's the, you know,
$1
I'll
million
buy it.
Right.
view,
Leverage.
but you're not
Right.
getting $1 million.
Right.
I use that technique, I wish I had that hook at the end though that you gave. I use that
Well,
technique
but
on
if
a
you, with all due
listing,
respect,
but-
you might not need that hook.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
not, but I think they might have got it, but it was not on a spectacular property, it was a very nice property, that they bought at the height of the market, unfortunately, they probably paid an appropriate price at that time, but then they put all kinds of money into it,
Yeah.
but they didn't increase the square footage, like you said.
Right,
And my numbers came up, you know, based on the square footage, and he was all upset about that, he said, why do you always use square footage? I said, because that's what the appraisers are gonna do.
right.
When, you know, the lender
Yeah.
goes to give the money. So I suggested he get an appraisal done, so he would know what it
Yeah.
was worth.
Have you seen that movie California King? It's a relatively new movie, you can rent it on video right now, and it was about a gentleman, to your point, Diane. It was about a dad and a daughter, and anytime he would say something while she was growing up, his standard reply was, if you don't believe it, look it up. And he would say that to, about her teachers and about her, and it was even a real nice life lesson that was taught at the end. So, you know, I thought about that saying when you're talking about the seller, and if the seller doesn't believe you, have them look it up. You know, have some facts or some information that maybe you pull off the internet that shows that what appraisers use to value properties, and use that third-party person endorsement. Use the tool that I'm gonna share with you today. It's a very, very powerful tool I'm gonna share with you today. The tool I'm gonna share with you today, I was able to use this tool and single-handedly list and sell over 60 properties in a market much worse than it is right now, working 45 hours a week, okay? And in selling, I was able to attract, close to 30 buyers' sales came as a result of these 60 listings that sold. Now, I listed more than 60 properties, I didn't sell them all within that 1 year, all the ones that I listed, but 60 of them sold, using the tool that I used. In addition to that, in a real tough market, one year I had a statistic where 40% of all my listings were selling in the first 30 days. 40% using this tool that I'm gonna share with you today. Very powerful tool. Now let's keep moving on. What number are we on now? Number one? Number one, how do most successful sellers choose their price? They let the agent decide. B, based on how much time they have to sell. Or C, based upon how much they think it is worth. And before you answer, underline the word successful. And think about that, right? How do most successful sellers choose their list price? What is a successful seller versus a non-successful seller? The property sold. So based on that information, you would choose B, based on how much time they have to sell, and I'm gonna talk about that also. I'm leaving you with a few mysteries in your mind right now. Go to the next page. Gang, let me ask you a question. What is the number one reason a property doesn't sell?
Price.
Price. Absolutely. And I think the reason why I'm repeating this so much to you today is that I want it to be so ingrained in your mind, and that next time you hear an agent in your office say something about why their property isn't selling, or why a seller is giving you an excuse why it isn't selling, or why you're giving yourself an excuse as to why your listing isn't selling, that is the reality of it. That is the truth. Okay? Never talk blank until they are blank on blank and blankety blank blank.
Price.
On you and your
Till
company.
they sold them.
All right, Bill, can you say that again, please?
Never talk price until they're sold on you and your company.
Never talk price until they are sold on you and your company. Now, here's a simple closing statement. I'm not gonna ask you to write it down, but what I'd like you to do is read it out loud with me, the next sentence. You ready? From what I have shown you about Carlson, GMAC, and me, if we could agree on price, would you be willing to let me handle your sale? And sometimes if you've done a great job with your presentation, like we described earlier in earlier sessions, then they will say, sure, if we could agree on price, because that's the last thing they could agree on. Now, sometimes they'll say this, sometimes they'll say, oh, we're not sure, and then you say it with me, read this one. So, is there something I still need to cover to convince you that should you list, I'm the person to help you? And they might say, yeah, you know, you talked about putting a sign in the yard, I'm not sure I want a sign in my yard. You know? No problem. Let me share with you some statistics and information about where buyers come from. And by the way, I forget what the statistic is. Maybe it's 23%. I'm just guessing of how many buyers come from the for sale sign. So we're effectively eliminating a 23% chance of your home actually getting sold. So I have to ask you, do you really want to sell your home? Then we don't certainly want to eliminate 23% chance of getting your property sold. So that's why I highly recommend that we do put a sign in your yard.
Someone said to me once, it's like telling your accountant to not use a calculator.
I love that. That's great.
No,
Did you
it's
guys
true
hear that?
because I went last week to show a few properties. Okay, 3 or 4 of them didn't have a sign. Like,
Yep.
not the
It's a
people ask,
secret listing.
why
Yeah.
there's-
Oh, great. World's biggest secret.
Everybody knows.
That's what you're giving me. World's greatest secret. I can't be held accountable if your property doesn't sell. If you're gonna tie my hands and not let me use all the marketing tools that I can use. So the bottom line of bringing that up, gang, is that this question fishes out any objections. And by the way, you don't move on from that point and talk about pricing until you ask that question. I've never given you that question up until now. This is something to add to your listing presentation dialogue. If you're afraid you're not gonna remember this, write this down, print this out on a piece of paper and put it in your listing presentation book and say to the seller, this page is here to remind me to ask you this question. And point to it and read it to them, or have them read it to you. You follow me, gang? It's better than forgetting. So I'm like, oh, that's not professional. You know what's not professional is not asking the question. That's not professional. So, from what I have shown you about Carlson, GMAC, and me, if we could agree on price, would you be willing to let me handle your sale? And if they say no, just simply ask why. Well, and they'll give you an objection. handle the objection, and move on. I go to this next point, the KISS principle. You don't know what KISS stands for, right? Keep it simple,
Stupid.
salesperson, right?
Smart
Keep-
Simple and sincere.
Keep it simple, salesperson. Now, here's what I mean by keep it simple. Go to the next portion down, it says sometimes you don't even need your CMA. Remember I talked about earlier, like what do what can you use the CMA for and so on and so forth, and the CMA is really an objection handling tool. So sometimes the seller will say to you, Angela, what do you think my house is worth? Like maybe around, I don't know, like 400,000? And Angela says, I think we could work with that, let's see how it works, and she signs up the listing. And the CMA is never even brought out of her briefcase, because she already knows, she's comfortable with that price. She knows that that's a price that she can work with. Excuse me, that's not what she would also say, sure, 400,000, let's see what that would look like on your net sheet. And by the way, she already has that on her net sheet. Or her net sheet says 380, and she's comfortable with 400 based on what she's seen on the property, and she puts a net sheet together for them right then and there and show them what they're gonna net in their pocket, okay? Yeah, which is the dialogue right here. You say to them, I don't see a problem, let me see what that will net you. And you never have to take that out. And keep in mind, some agents are using the CMA as their presentation. A pro only takes it out when they need it. My CMA, I'm not telling you should do this, but I'm telling you what I used to do, is my CMA consisted of my listing presentation that I described to you, all those flex sheets, put them together. I'd ask them, based on what you've seen about me and my company, do you have any reservation about hiring me as your agent and moving forward? And they would say yes or no. If they said yes, sure, if we could agree on price, John, we'd be happy to hire you. I'd go to the next page, I'd talk about the market, I'd show them the trend graphics, I'd show them the information of what's going on, how tough the market is. Then I would move them, I would use my tool that I haven't shown you yet, I would use my tool, and then after I would use my secret weapon tool, then I would go to the pricing, the net sheet, use the market analysis if I needed it as an objection handling tool. My market analysis consisted of 3 sold properties with sticky notes over the price. And then I would take the details of their house next to each one of those properties one at a time, and I would say, okay, we're gonna do what appraisers do. We're gonna compare your house to this subject property number 1. Now let's compare square footage. This has a little more than your home. Bedrooms, same bedrooms. Garage, same garage. Fireplace, this house has a fireplace. So based on these statistics, is your home worth more or less in the appraiser's eyes?
Less.
It's less. How much do you think this home sold for? You think your house is worth 400,000. How much do you think this home sold for?
Yeah.
4.
4.25.
4 1/4? Okay.
4.25.
Go ahead, Diane, peel the sticky note off of this. 385. Whoa. Let's go to the next subject property. Flip the page over, take their house and subject property number 2. See, what they're doing is they're doing the appraisal, not me. They're doing the market analysis in their mind, not me. All right, let's compare. My competitors are going, here's everything that's sold, here's everything that was listed, here's everything that's expired, here's everything that's pending. But the appraisers don't use the what is for sale, what is expired, what is pending to assess the value of their property. So I just cut right to the chase and I went right to it. Now, if it helped my cause to pull out expireds, I always have a list of expireds in my briefcase just to show them. I remember when the printers and when the paper for the printers were all connected and they were perforated, and what do they call that paper that runs on a track?
Yes.
Right?
IBM.
Yeah. And you pull it up and they're all connected together. These are, by the way, Mr. Rousseau, these are all the properties that have expired in the last 6 months, and they just roll right onto the floor, right?
We're showing the days
So-
on market.
Yeah, days on market, all the
Days.
facts, all the information, things of that nature. And basically what would happen if I bring the seller through that psychological process of doing their own market analysis, they're telling me what the value of their price is, I'm not telling them. You follow me, gang? You see the difference between what the average agent is doing and what the pro does, and how in this market, you have incredibly wild success in this market just by changing what you do and what you say and how you do it. And you will, and by the way, your competitors aren't doing this. I mean, look at this, how many people are in this class right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people. Wow, I mean, how many people in this company? I don't know, maybe 160, 170 agents just in Western Mass alone, and 14 people are being exposed to this information? I'm gonna tell you what they told me when I started real estate, you have no competition. Very few people are willing to make the commitment to be good, to be a professional. You're doing it. Simply leave this room and implement the things that you've learned, and you will blow away your competition. Yes, Bill?
I was, looking around on David Knox last night, cause I was gonna order that pricing, and they had some dialogue involved around there and some suggestions, and one of the things the guy said, or wrote, was to print out a history on a property that didn't sell and all the reductions that went along the line, and point out, had it been priced at this to begin with, they would actually netted more than
Yes.
what they ended up with.
Yeah, I literally read that last night myself. I read that page on the website,
Yeah.
and I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's a great tool to use that. Thank you for bringing that, it's a good suggestion. Now, go to the next page, and I'm gonna share with you, 3 techniques real quick, and then as I promised you, I'll show you the tool that I use to, knock down 60 trees in the forest in less than a year, okay? From what I've shown you about Carlson, GMA, and City, if we could agree on price, would you be willing to get the ball rolling? Well, all right, then and they say yes, we would. Well, all right, then let's get into the price. But before we do, I have a little dilemma that I'm wrestling with around in my mind. Remember I asked you all those questions about your house?
Yeah.
They say yes, okay. I needed that information to go to the computer and pull out the information that we call in real estate known as comparables. Though no 2 homes are the same, you have 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, colonial, and I had to find other 4-bedroom, 2-car garage colonials. Because in any market, buyers are only going to buy and houses are only going to sell for what comparable type homes are selling for. Are you familiar with that premise? Let me ask you guys, are you familiar with that premise?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Well, I'm happy to say that I found some comparables, so we don't have to guess at the price of your home. How does that sound? Right? Okay, where are you going with this? I did run into a snag. Remember I asked you how much your house was worth, and you said, oh, I think my house is worth about $400,000? Well, that created a little bit of a problem. I went into the computer and I went way back, and I couldn't find anything even close to $400,000. Now first is my dilemma. My dilemma is I'm sitting here thinking, should I tell you what you want and what you want, I know you want to hear, just to get the listing, or should I level with you tonight and hope that just because I'm being honest, you won't list with someone else that maybe isn't? Ooh. So I leave it totally up to you. Should I lie or level? And then you give them this look. I call that the puppy dog look. Right? And what do they say?
Okay.
Level.
We'll think about it.
Sometimes they say this, sometimes they say lie. And I say, okay, then, let's put it on for $1 million, it's not gonna sell at that price either. Right? Right?
Yeah.
You could literally say that to them. Well, forget the 400, let's just put it on at $1 million, it's not gonna sell at that price either.
Can I ask
Very
you something?
funny, and they're not laughing, they're like, oh.
Yeah, they get
John,
lost.
can I ask you something? How many
Yes.
times did you actually walked away from the listing because you did not agree with the sellers on the price?
Well, earlier in my career, I walked away from more earlier in my career, after I was prospecting. I walked away from fewer later in my career because I learned the art of what Mike Ferry was talking about earlier today on the video, and that was what? Asking the seller what? getting the seller what? Pre-qualified. And so when I started going on a lot of listing appointments from my prospecting efforts, I wasn't pre-qualifying them. I was just like you, I was just happy to have a listing appointment, to go out there and practice on somebody, you know? And so what I would do at the end of the close, here's how I would close with people. I would say, listen, can you work with this? They loved everything I was doing to market a property. They loved it. They would definitely hire me if we could agree on price. If we couldn't agree on price, then I would say to them, well, here's my suggestion. If the price is not where it needs to be in order for you to make the move, then I would recommend that you don't move right now. And let's keep in touch in the future so that when you do need to move, you at least you know a good agent. Does that make sense? And they always said, yeah, that makes sense, Sean. Thank you for your honesty, and we appreciate that. And I'd put them on my sphere of influence, and I'd keep in touch with them, and you know, maybe they would call me back, maybe they wouldn't, maybe they would sell in the future, maybe they wouldn't, who knows. But I'm telling you, that's a waste of time. Now, that was the wrong thing for me to do. Now, it was good I was going out and talking to people. It was good I was going out and influencing people and making friends, but it was a waste of time. So today what I would do, and what I would recommend that you do, is you pre-qualify them over the phone so you can walk away from fewer. You follow me?
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion. Sometimes that doesn't work and you have to go to step 2. And they don't understand, how you came up with your price. And so sometimes you need to explain a little further, you need to dig a little deeper. And what I would ask you to do is don't show them the price, you want to hit them with the facts. And the facts are using what we call the wholesale retail visual. And this is provided, if any of you have ever attended a Floyd Wickman course, this is from Floyd Wickman. And what he does is, you see there are 3 circles here. There's the wholesale, the retail, and then your list price. On the upper left-hand corner, you draw this out on a piece of paper. So I would actually do this on a listing appointment. So you have a piece of paper, and you have 3 circles here, and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Sully, you have 3 different prices. You have wholesale, retail, and then your list price. Okay? You want to hit them with the what?
Facts.
Hit them with the facts. You got it. The facts are, you could list it for wholesale, which is about 75% of the value. And in this case, if your home's worth $300,000, the value would be $225,000. And this is what an all-cash investor will buy your home for, turn it around and sell it and make a profit. Okay? That's the wholesale price. The next spot is, you move over to here, to retail. And the retail price is based on my comps that I have, is $300,000. Okay? And this is what an actual buyer will pay for the house. And this is a buyer that would actually buy it and live in the property. Retail is always based on what comparable homes have sold for. Absolutely. And then we have your list price, what you put it on the market for. There is one factor you have to consider, and that is time. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to be in real estate forever. I'm in no hurry. So let's take a look at the comparables, right? So I've given them the facts. If you want to get it sold fast, list it for this. If you want to get it sold in a reasonable amount of time, you list it for this. If you want to list it higher, where are we going to go with it? We're going to go to the next page. Technique number 3. Remember that old Latin phrase, right? You're going to use that dialogue here. So we're talking about about $300,000. So this is your $300,000, okay, gang? And in this time frame, you've been able to establish that properties that are priced in that time frame sell within 4 to 6 months. Okay? Now, as we talked about earlier, if you want to list it with an all-cash, if you want to list it with an investor and list it for $225,000, we could probably get your home sold within 30 days. Would you agree with that, right? Now, the seller says to you, well, I still wanna get $400,000, right? Here's what you say, no problem. Right? $400,000, that's where you wanna price it at? That's not a problem. Like I said, I'm gonna be in real estate forever, so this may take you, I don't know, maybe
20 years.
24 to 48 months to sell it, and just smile. And then they might say to you, if they're a qualified seller, but we don't have that amount of time. Well, then you need to do what? Adjust your price. What you're doing is you're showing them that price is directly related to what, gang?
Time.
To time. And you're showing them with a visual. What I'm saying is you need to draw this out on a piece of paper and show them this price to time pyramid. Now, you can learn everything I shared with you today, and you can go to 4 days worth of seminars and practice, drill, and rehearse all the dialogues to internalize everything that I've shown you, or you could use my secret weapon tool.
What's that?
Do you want the secret weapon
Yeah.
tool?
Yes.
All right, before we get into that, I wanna talk about the last page. The next week, we're going to talk about how to guarantee you full-term listings. Here's another problem. Number one, some of you don't realize that there is an office policy. The office policy is that you can't take a listing for less than 180 days, and yet people are coming into the office and they're coming in with 30-day, 3-month listings, 4-month listings, and I'm like, if I was a real hard-nosed, like, kick you in the butt, you know, like some managers can be, I would say, listen, George, go back and get 6 months, or we're not taking the listing, right? So I think that the reason why some agents are offering their listings for less than 6 months is either they don't understand or the seller doesn't understand, and I'm taking it as my personal responsibility to educate the agent so they understand why they need to get a 6-month listing, okay? Do you see why you need a 6-month listing, right?
I had
Absolutely.
one, the other day, and I was gonna do a 6-month listing, that was my intent, until I looked at the solds, and it said that the average market time was 201 days, and I said, well, I need 7 months at least, because why would I wanna shortchange myself?
Absolutely.
The average market time is 7 months.
Smart, right?
So if the average market time
Yep.
is 13 months.
Yeah, well, there's 13.5 months of inventory available. It's like the absorption rate, but if you look at, if the average marketing time for a particular property is 13 months, or if it's, 8 months or 9 months. Plus, that doesn't include, the fact that once it's under agreement too, you still need to have the listing active while it's under, what if it takes 2 months for it to sell? Like it goes under agreement in 7 months, but then you need another 2 months because you still have to have the listing.
Sure.
Listen, when you lose a listing, you lose what?
Money.
Some listings are lost because the seller did not give you enough time to get it sold, and the reason why they didn't give you enough time is because they didn't understand why they needed to give you a better listing, and that's mostly due because the agent didn't know how to explain it to them and how to get the seller to want them to give them more time. So I promise you, I'm gonna share with you a 4-step track that will absolutely convince the seller to get you the full-term listing that you need in order to get the listing sold. Remember, the best way to sell more listings is to lose what? Lose fewer, right?
Yeah.
Too many listings are being lost, so that's Friday at 10. Now, here's the deal. Here's what I used to do. I would go in to a listing presentation, and I would get to the point in my presentation where I would first,
Ring the doorbell.
then I would,
Smile. Give him a
Bring him to the
compliment.
kitchen. Oh, no, you make
Compliment.
compliment. Then bring him.
Take him to the kitchen.
bring him to the kitchen table, then I would,
Break the ice.
The eyes.
right? And then I would
Roll him to a safe harbor.
Island.
take him out into a safe island.
Yeah.
And then I would get permission to ask him a bunch of
Questions.
open questions, right? Then I would get up and what?
Go back to the kitchen table.
I would get up and look.
Look
I
at the
would
house.
Look around the property.
Right.
Then we would go back to the,
Safe harbor.
right? And then I would talk about all the reasons why
You should list with
people should list with me and my company, right? And then I would never talk about price until
Yeah.
Sold on you and company.
They're sold on me and my
After they
company,
sign.
right? And I would ask the question, based on what you've seen about me and my company, would you feel comfortable getting the ball rolling if we could agree on price, right? And they would say yes. Okay, great. Now, because, now, if I knew, if this was, by the way, this never happened, but if it ever did, if the seller said to me, well, in the listing questions that I asked them, the pre-qualification questions, if they said to me, you know, I think my house is worth $300,000, and I knew my CMA came up to $300,000, and I was okay with that price, then I would say, great. What you based on what you've told me on the phone, you said $300,000. You're very accurate in that assumption. Let's see what that will net you. And they said, okay, sign here, and it's done. That never happened in the market that I was in. It would have been nice, but everybody thought their price was what?
Higher.
So here's what I had to do in reality. I had to pull out my secret weapon. And I would say, okay, before we get into pricing, I want to share this video with you. And at the time, we didn't have DVD when I was doing this. They were on VHS. So I'd pull out the video out of my briefcase. And only once did somebody say, oh, geez, you know, how long is that going to take? And I'd say, it's only 20 minutes. And the guy said, well, can't you just tell me, he was a very anxious person, can't you just tell me what's on the video? No problem, that'll take an hour. And I was serious. I was serious. I said, no problem, that'll take, I said, listen, there's no way that I can possibly duplicate what this guy shows you with charts and graphs and things. And it's very quick, it's fast-paced, it's entertaining, it's fact-filled, it's important information that you need to know about the saleability of your property. This is one of the most and biggest investments of your life, isn't it? He goes, it's the biggest investment of my life. I said, well then, it's worth taking the time to do this. I said, as a professional agent, I'm bringing this to you. Most agents wouldn't take the time to even do this with you, and I am. Because by the way, I've seen this video 100 times, and I know you need to see it. If you want to get the most amount of money for your home, do you? I looked at the wife, and she's like, you know, giving him a hard time. Just play the video. Stop it. You know, she's yelling at him. You know,
Or they'll say, leave it here.
And by the way, gang,
Yeah.
I've been on hundreds of listing appointments that only happened once. The biggest fears that you're creating, the excuses that you're creating in your head right now are self-created. They're not real. Fear, do you know what the acronym FEAR stands for? False expectations appearing real. F-E-A-R, false expectations appearing real. Now, Mark brought up a good point. He says, what if they say, well, can't you just leave it behind? Well, what am I supposed to do between now and the time? We need to review this before we get to price. And if you want to know the price of the value of the property, are you saying that you're out of time? Should I come back and do the whole thing? I wouldn't give them the price until they watch this first. And I would say, no problem, why don't I come back? I can't lend this to you because I need it for my next appointment tonight or
You
tomorrow.
only have one, I see.
Yeah. You can buy one your own. If the seller said you can buy one of your own if you want, you can just call this number here and buy your own. Anyway, how many of you would like to see this video right now?
How long would it take?
No.
20 minutes.
20 minutes? Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay. Alrighty. Now, the video is actually 19 minutes. There is absolutely positively nothing that could be a better investment than buying this video. I am going to play the video, and if you have to leave, go ahead and leave. But if you want to stay in the real estate business and you want to make money, then I'd recommend you hang around. I was able to come up with the product order form for this. And by the way, here's the power of this. This video was a third-party person telling them what they needed to hear, and no one ever yelled at me because I didn't give them the price that they wanted. They understood all the facts and information and details. I mean, even if you don't buy this video, you at least owe it to yourself to watch the video and learn what it is that he's saying and try to duplicate it in some way. There are two different types of people in the room right now today. There are the people that will see the video, listen to what I've said, buy it and use it. Actually, there are three different types of people. There are people that will buy it and use it. There are people that will buy it and not use it. And there are people that, and then there are people that won't buy it. Why? Because they don't buy it. They're thinking, it's too easy to be true. Or, how much money does it cost? Or, by the way, how much money does it cost you when you go out on a listing and it isn't priced right? See, guys, it's an investment. I don't get a commission for selling these things, but I can tell you one thing right now. In managing an office and managing a region, it's my direct responsibility to help you in any way I possibly can to help you make money. Because when you make money, who else makes money? The boss, right? The company does, right? And so, isn't that part of my responsibility? Absolutely. So, see, by me helping you, I also help out the company as well. And so, by the way, when you get help and you sell more homes, do you make more money? Are you more successful?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a manager's job is recruiting, training, and retaining. Okay? We're doing training. Part of the retaining is I share with you information that will help you make money so that you can stay in real estate. You follow me? The opposite of this is you don't take this information, you don't use it, you don't invest in yourself. Benjamin Franklin said if you take the coins from your purse and invest them into your mind will put coins in your purse. Right? So what I'm saying is, make the investment. It's well worth it. There are some really good quantity discounts on here that you can check out. He has lots of videos. I'm going to highly recommend one video, and that is pricing your home to sell for sellers. And I'm going to pass this around. You can look at the quantity. You can all get together at the end of the video and say, okay, who wants one? And you can order them as a group and get a sincere discount, or you can order it yourself. My fiance bought this on her own by herself. She paid the big price for it. And she's used it, and it's powerful, and it works. I was lucky that she was able to let me borrow it today. And so I'm going to pass this around.
How much is it?
$39. I just ordered it last night.
Plus
$6 shipping.
And what is it?
That's great.
Different here?
I thought it was gonna
Yes,
be.
it
Well,
is.
they said there was it was $20 if you had a group discount, but then you had to commit to so much of an order.
Can I ask something? Sometime
Yes.
when you talk to a person, a lister, and you talk to them to say that now you do want to adjust the price because the market is changing and something like that, and you quote a price that you should go down, let's say a 10 or 15,000. They say, yes, Mark, but I do want to tell you that, they never pay us that price. We know that whatever price I'm
He's
coming
gonna-
down,
he's gonna
they're
handle
gonna
it.
want to come down again. So
He's
how much do you want me to come down?
If you want, he's going to handle that on the video.
You will?
Yep. That's a great question.
What time do you have to go?
Okay, if we can have a little silence, please, we're going to start the video.
No, I don't want some.
Yeah.
I had all those. If you would just get treated
David Knox is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and is the president of David Knox Productions, Incorporated. As an internationally recognized expert in the real estate industry, he presents live seminars to more than 20,000 people a year. His 30 years of experience includes real estate sales, training, and the production of educational products for salespeople and homeowners. In this video, you'll learn how to sell your home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. Now, here's David Knox.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. By providing this tape, your real estate agent is demonstrating a sincere interest in the successful sale of your home. An important objective of selling your home is to attain the highest possible price. But your primary objective is to have your home sold. That's the only way you'll satisfy the motivations that originally caused your decision to move. If by attempting a price too high, your home doesn't sell, then your objectives aren't met. In this video, I'll address the major principles of pricing, as well as the most common questions and beliefs owners have about pricing their home. You will find these principles to be relevant for most locations and price ranges. Should we select an agent based on price? This question goes to the heart of your two most important decisions, selecting an agent and establishing the price. These decisions must be independent choices and unrelated to each other. One of the greatest mistakes homeowners make is to list with an agent who agrees to the highest asking price. As tempting as this is, it can prevent your home from selling. Agents who gain your listing with a high price now will simply require successive price reductions later. There are two criteria on which to base your listing decision: services and marketing plan, or asking price. Real estate agents don't establish value, the market does. So under no circumstances should you select an agent based upon price. You wouldn't choose a stockbroker based on the value of your stock. You'd hire a stockbroker based on competence, trust, comfort, and reputation. Select an agent using similar criteria. The best agents have the confidence to tell you the truth about the market. That's the only way you'll learn the true value of your home. Their role is to sell your home, not price it. All the exposure in the world won't sell an overpriced home, and an agent's enthusiasm about your home will not increase its value. Ideally, you should select your agent first, then together determine the price of your home. So how do I set the asking price? Think back to when you purchased this home. How did you determine what to pay for it at the time you bought it? You probably compared this home to all the other homes for sale and arrived at a value based on that comparison. Well, buyers still comparison shop today. In fact, through the internet, they have a much greater access to market information. So by the time they see your home, they've already examined your competition and know their options. It's important that you and your agent select a price based upon this same market data. Now, typically, the internet provides only asking prices on homes for sale, not sold. To determine true market value, real estate agents will not only research the asking prices of homes for sale, but more importantly, the sale prices of those that have sold. Let's see how this is done. A real estate agent may use what is called a comparative market analysis, or CMA, similar to this. Its purpose is to compare your home to others by location, size, and amenities. It may contain an area map, photos of homes, and summary pages like this that compare addresses, bedrooms, baths, square footage, and style. Active properties, the ones for sale, represent the upper end of the price range. You wouldn't expect to sell your home for more than what others are selling for today, assuming, of course, that these are similar to yours. The solds represent the reality of the market. These are the most important numbers to use in determining market value. In a normal market, your asking price should be at the top of the solds and at the bottom of those for sale. As an alternative to a printed CMA, your agent may provide the information on an internet summary page or a computer database display. There's a third category that your agent might research, depending upon the market. Those are the homes that did not sell after the listing term. These are called expired listings and represent the out-of-range price. If you price where the other homes expire, your home will remain unsold as well. So, to receive the most money in the shortest time, you must price at market value. The CMA is like an X-ray of the market. When a doctor takes an X-ray of your shoulder, the doctor isn't creating the injury that appears, nor is a real estate agent creating the market that exists around your home. In both cases, a professional is giving you a look at the reality of a situation so you can make an informed decision. Some sellers say, our home is better than the others. The first question buyers ask when examining a higher-priced home is, what's the difference? For a home to be seen as better, it must surpass the others in these criteria: location, size, or amenities. Of the three, location represents a majority of value because it's permanent and unchangeable. This is especially true in condominiums and apartments, where location is the primary differentiating factor, or where location is predominant in relation to the structure. When people buy a home, the first thing they're buying is where it is, the side of street that it's on, the direction it faces, the neighborhood, freeway access, or proximity to schools and shopping. Size, or square footage, is the next most important criteria. It's measured either in foundation size or total living area. Your agent will do an apples-to-apples comparison for you. If location and size are comparable, then amenities become more significant. Condition, appliances, features, construction quality, and decorating become more important factors to differentiate one home from another. We all think our home is the best, but it's important to be objective in analyzing your home's value. The buyers will be. Market trends will definitely influence your pricing strategy, and your real estate agent will take this into account. This chart illustrates a typical rise and fall of a market. When you put your home on the market here, you can price it a little higher because the market will rise to catch it. But at this point, the market has peaked, so you must price right at this level because if it's priced correctly today, it may not be later on. One of the most disheartening times to put your home on the market is during a decline. If you overprice it here, it's a dangerous strategy because it will stay on the market for a long time. So consult with your agent to decide a correct pricing strategy. But we've had a fee appraisal higher than that. There are two criteria to consider when using a previous appraisal to determine an asking price: when it was done and for what purpose. The more recent the appraisal, the more accurate the number. Now, changes that affect the accuracy include interest rates, additional homes for sale, recent sales, and seasonal shifts. Consider having the appraisal updated by the same appraiser to see how these changes affected value. An appraisal done for insurance or refinancing may be higher than market, while for tax assessment or a new mortgage may be lower. The CMA furnished by your agent is the most relevant to your current situation. Now, the appraisal that does matter is the one your buyers have done for mortgage application, because it establishes their maximum loan amount. If the home appraises for less than the sale price, the lender will reduce the loan amount, which could hinder the sale. This is another good reason to price right. We paid more than that for it. If the value of your home has declined below your original purchase price, or you haven't owned it long enough to build equity, you're left with a tough choice of whether to sell at a loss or stay in the home. You must decide if the benefits of moving exceed the amount of loss. To examine this further, let's take a look at 4 principles of evaluation. They are cost, price, value, and market value. Cost represents what you paid for your home. It includes the original purchase price plus capital improvements you've made. Price is the amount you ask when you put your home on the market. Value represents what a home is worth to one person in an isolated situation. That is, value is in the eyes of the beholder. Market value is the amount that would appeal to many people and cause a sale within a reasonable period of time. Now, what is the relationship between cost and market value? Answer: there is no relationship between them. Consider this example. What if the home that you're in today is one that you acquired through inheritance, in which case your cost was 0? The question I would ask you is, how much would you try to sell it for today? The answer: we'd all try to get market value, even though we paid nothing for it. As the stock market illustrates daily, what you paid for something doesn't affect its value. That's one of the most difficult parts of marketing real estate today. People buy a home for one amount and assume they should get more than that when they sell it. In most cases, and in the long term, this does happen. So regardless of their cost, homes sell for market value. We need to get our costs out of it. While living in our homes, we add improvements, make repairs, and perform maintenance. Then at the time of sale, we try to get that investment back. The principle of substitution is another way to demonstrate how improvement costs affect value. Here's an actual example of new construction that sold for $250,000. Part of the cost of building this home was a $9,000 well. Next door, the builder built a similar home, but the water table was deeper and they had to drill through hard rock, so this well cost $17,000, $8,000 more than the other. The question is, what would this home sell for? The answer: $250,000. The fact that the builder spent an additional $8,000 doesn't matter, because value is a function not of what you have in a home, but what you get out of it. And in both cases, you get water. What about the value of our improvements? Aren't there some improvements that add value to our home? Certainly there are. Bathrooms, fireplaces, and major capital improvements add more, while cosmetic changes and decorating add less. Now here's a question to help you determine this. Think of all the improvements you've made to your home up to now. At that time, were you planning to move or stay? If you'd known you were going to move today, would you have still made the improvements? The answer for many people is no way. Well, why not? The answer is because we wouldn't get our money back. The reason for putting most improvements into your home is for enjoyment, not resale. Another way to determine if an improvement adds value is to consider this. Let's say you could remove all the improvements and have your money back. First of all, would you keep the money or put it back into the home today? Second of all, what would most buyers in your market do today? If few buyers would make the same improvements, then they'll resist paying for them. They can always make an offer. It's true that buyers can always make an offer, but they'll only do that if they see your home. Your asking price is like an exclusive invitation. Buyers in only that price range will respond. The right price attracts the right buyers. But when you overprice, you lose these buyers and instead attract a higher price buyer with higher expectations. The wrong price attracts the wrong buyers. Here's how this happens in practice. Real estate agents use a computer database function called Search Active to find homes for their buyers. They enter the buyer's search parameters of location, size, amenities, and price range. This search eliminates all the homes outside the buyer's specifications and price range. If your home is priced even $1 higher than this range, you won't make the list and your home becomes invisible to your most qualified buyers. One of the most common beliefs homeowners have is, we can always come down. This chart represents a situation that I know has occurred in your community. Think of a home that you've seen in the market for a long time. On the day it was listed, the market value was at this level, yet they chose to overprice it here, thinking, well, we can always come down. It didn't sell, so they reduced the price. It still didn't sell, so they reduced it again. Finally, months out, they decided to reduce it to the market value. Now, you'd expect the home to sell, but at this point, buyers ask the same question you probably ask on a showing. How long has it been on the market? Why do you ask? Because if it's been on the market for a long time, you think that either something's wrong with it or that the owners must be ready to accept a lower offer. In addition, you're not sure if they're at their final price. So now the market is wary of the home and its price, and the owners are out of options, out of time, and must accept whatever offer they can get. Your real estate agent wants to help you avoid this unpleasant situation. We need the money. People tend to overprice their home because they need the money. They'll add up their mortgage amount, selling expenses, plus what they need for the next home, and arrive at an asking price. The harsh reality is that your need for money has no effect on the value of your home. Would you pay more for a home if you knew the owners needed the money? We want to build in bargaining room. Adding bargaining room is just another way of overpricing a home and will be a burden that hinders your sale. There's a belief that all buyers will offer low, therefore we've got to price it high to ultimately agree at market value. Now, it's true that some buyers will make low offers even if you're priced right, but the educated buyers will recognize a fair price and be far more likely to pay it. You'd be better off turning down a few low offers than not getting any at all. By pricing your home properly, you can hold firm. Don't overprice your home and lose the sincere buyers just to cater to the bargain hunters. Couldn't we just try it at a higher price? This pinball game illustrates the dynamics of the market. Buyers enter the market, examine the homes for sale, and compare them to each other. An overpriced home will clearly stand out and make the others look better by comparison. If your home is overpriced, then the buyers may use it to justify the purchase of another. Couldn't we just try it for a couple of weeks? That sounds harmless enough, but you actually waste your best marketing period. This chart illustrates the general trend of showing activity plotted over time. When you first put your home in the market, there is no activity because no one knows your home is for sale yet. Once your agent implements the marketing plan, your home is exposed through sphere of influence contact, multiple listing service, internet sites, open houses, advertising, and print media. This will generate showings from the pent-up demand of buyers waiting for new listings. This period of high activity will peak, then taper off to a normal level of those buyers new to the market. Don't make the mistake of overpricing your home during its best period of marketing, then lowering the price later. I recommend that you list your home at market value now so you can capitalize on some of the best prospects you'll ever get. What if you're moving to a higher priced area? Moving to a higher priced market can be very difficult, especially if you're leaving a flat or declining market. The tendency is to overprice our home here in order that we can afford to buy in the destination market. But the reality is, your destination does not affect the value of your home. Would you lower the price of your home to someone moving from an even less expensive market? Hopefully the benefits of the move outweigh the price differential. I'd like to address one more situation that occurs periodically, buying up in a down market. The following is an example of selling your home in a declining market while also repurchasing in a declining market. While the prices may be different for your situation, the principle applies. Let's say you're in home A and it has appreciated in value for a number of years to a peak of $300,000. Subsequently, it declines in value by 10% to $270,000. At first, you wish you'd sold at the peak. Had you done so, however, you probably would have purchased another home of higher value. The National Association of Realtor statistics indicate that people move up in price by about 50% or more. So in this example, you would have moved up to a $450,000 home, an increase of $150,000. But here's the silver lining inside of this. The home that you would have purchased also declined in value by 10% from $450,000 down to $405,000. Because the value of this home is greater, it came down by a greater amount. So the net difference, had you purchased at the peak of the market, was $150,000. whereas here, the difference is only $135,000. So in reality, you have a $15,000 savings by buying up in a down market. This is one of the greatest hidden benefits of pricing your home to sell at market value. So in summary, remember the benefits of pricing your home correctly. Faster sale. You and your family need to satisfy the objectives that originally caused this move. By selling your home sooner, you can finalize your plans, move together as a family, and have peace of mind. Less inconvenience. All the activity of preparing for showings and keeping your home clean can be greatly minimized if you price correctly. You'll get more prospects for your home. At the market value, more of the right buyers can see and afford it. Agent enthusiasm. When other real estate agents see a properly priced home, they get excited and want to show it to their customers. Higher offers. That's the irony of pricing. The closer you price your home to the market, the higher offers you get. This example illustrates how you are more likely to create a multiple offer situation. Your price is like a magnet and the buyers are like metal. The closer it gets, the more it attracts. And bottom line, higher net equity. The closer you price to the market, the sooner it sells and the higher net equity you actually gain from your home. I hope this video has been helpful in answering the questions that pertain to the pricing of your home. Your real estate agent can answer questions that relate specifically to your market. I wish you the best in the sale of your home. Thank you for watching this video.
All right, so what do you guys think of the video?
Great.
Good. You like it?
I do think parts are a little bit too sophisticated for the seller, because I think it takes a little bit of real estate knowledge to digest it quickly, like it's
Well,
presented.
it's like, this is an option.
Yeah, they might ask you to leave it after seeing it so they can review it, but we won't. You know what I'm saying? I mean.
He does go fast.
Some of it was
Yeah,
fast
yeah, but-
and detailed
Well,
information.
here's another thing you can do. Because this is on DVD, you can actually go back to a specific topic. There's a menu, and you can select different topics. So if you want to review a topic, you can do it. And you know what, gang? This works. He updated it, obviously, for this day and age. He talks about the internet, you know, back when I was using the video, he had, his hair was darker, you know, and he had, you know, and you adjusted for it. So again, it's a very powerful tool, and it works. And so I would encourage you to invest in it. It's great.
Could you just, I'd be interested in doing, but if 2 other people would do it, it would be a lot cheaper.
Sure,
So
yeah.
if they, either can tell me now if they wanna do it, or.
I'd take it.
So there's 2 people over there.
Okay, so if we send them in together,
Yeah, put it on one, and, you know, put it on one person's credit card and have the other 2 people give cash or whatever, and you can work it out amongst yourselves.
what?
So if anyone, you know, see Roberta, if you want to invest this, again, I highly recommend that you do it. It's a great tool, very powerful. All right, gang, have a great day. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Take care.
Well, what about, just fill this out with your card and give me your thing and I'll send them all together.
No,